How is it possible that one of Europe's oldest rugby nations have never beaten the All Blacks? For nearly 4 decades, Italy have faced New Zealand time and time again. They've produced world-class players, stunned some of the rugby's biggest nations, and grown into genuine force since joining the Six Nations. Yet one record remains untouched. Every time these two teams meet, the All Blacks come out on top. So today, we're looking back at the incredible history of this matchup, why Italy have never beaten New Zealand, and whether that could finally be about to change. Italy's rugby story actually goes back much further than people realise. Rugby was introduced to Italy in the early 1900s, and while football quickly became the country's dominant sport, rugby slowly built a passionate following, particularly around the northern parts of Italy. For decades, Italy sat just outside rugby's elite nations. They regularly competed against emerging European teams, but rarely had the opportunity to test themselves against the world's best. Everything changed in 1987, when the rugby held its very first Rugby World Cup. That tournament also marked Italy's first test match against the All Blacks. It was a huge occasion for Italian rugby, but it quickly became clear just how big the gap was between these two nations. New Zealand dominated from start to finish, winning 70 points to 6. It wasn't simply a difference in talent, it was a difference in experience, professionalism, depth, and rugby culture. The All Blacks had already spent generations building one of the greatest sporting systems in the world, while Italy was still trying to establish themselves on the international stage. But their heavy defeat wasn't the end of the story. In many ways, it became the beginning. Over the next decade, Italy invested heavily in growing the game. More players began coming through the system, domestic competitions improved, and the national team slowly became more competitive. Their efforts were rewarded in 2000 when Italy officially joined the Five Nations, transforming it into what we now know as the Six Nations Championship. It was a landmark moment not just for Italian rugby, but for the sports across Europe. Suddenly, Italy were playing England, France, Ireland, Scotland and Wales every single year. Those matches were tough, often brutal, but they gave Italy something they had never consistently had before: experience against Tier 1 opposition. That experience slowly began paying dividends. Italy started producing players who could genuinely compete with the world's best. One of the biggest names was Sergio Parisse, widely regarded as one of the greatest number 8s of the professional era. Born in Argentina before representing Italy through his family heritage, Parisse became one of the faces of Italy for almost 2 decades. Standing around 1.96 metres tall and weighing approximately 110 kilograms, he combined remarkable athleticism with exceptional handling skills and leadership. Even opposition fans respected him because he consistently performed at a world-class level, despite often playing behind a pack that struggled against rugby's elite nations. Alongside Parisse came players like Martin Gastrogianovi, one of the most feared tight-head props of his generation, Leonardo Guidolagini, Andrea Massi, Alessandro Gani, and later Tomasana Allen. Each generation added more quality, more experience, and more belief. But every time New Zealand appeared on the schedule, the challenge remained enormous. And that's because beating the All Blacks has never been just about having great players. It's about matching one of the greatest sporting systems ever created. New Zealand's success doesn't begin when players pull on the black jersey. It begins in schools, local clubs, and provincial rugby. Young players grow up dreaming of becoming the All Blacks, and by the time they reach Super Rugby, they've already played thousands of hours of competitive rugby. The provincial competitions produce hardened professionals before they even earn a test cap. Then comes Super Rugby, where players regularly compete against elite opposition from across the Southern Hemisphere. By the time someone debuts for the All Blacks, they've already experienced an incredibly demanding pathway. That's why New Zealand have remained so consistent for decades. They don't just produce one generation of stars, they replace legends with future legends. When Richard McCaw retired, Sam Cane stepped in. When Dan Carter finished, Beauden Barrett emerged. When Kieran Reid moved on, Ardie Savea became the world's best. The conveyor belt simply never stops. The depth has been one of the biggest reasons that Italy has never managed to get over the line. There have been moments where they've looked competitive. There have been halves where they've challenged. There have been periods where they've frustrated the All Blacks. But maintaining that intensity for the full 80 minutes has proven almost impossible. One meeting that stood out came in Milan in 2009. Playing in front of a passionate home crowd, Italy defended courageously and made life difficult for New Zealand during the large periods of the game. Their scrum stood up well, their defence was physical, and they refused to back down. Yet as the game wore on, the All Blacks simply found another way. The superior fitness, accuracy, and the ability to capitalise on small mistakes eventually stretched the scoreline. It was a familiar pattern that rugby fans had seen before. The same thing happened again in Rome in 2016. Italy started brightly. matching New Zealand physically through the opening exchanges and showing far more confidence with ball in hand than previous generations. But once the All Blacks settled into their rhythm, the game changed almost instantly. Quick ball, relentless support play and clinical finishing turned a competitive contest into another New Zealand victory. What makes the All Blacks so difficult to beat isn't that they dominate every minute, it's that they punish every mistake. Give them one turnover, one missed tackle, one defensive lap, and suddenly they've scored 60 metres away. That's been the story of the fixture for decades. Italy have often competed brilliantly for 40 or 50 minutes before New Zealand's relentless pressure finally creates cracks in the defence. In recent years, though, something has started to change. Italy are no longer seen as rugby's easy beats. The rise of Benetton Rugby and the United Rugby Championship had given Italian players regular exposure against the top European opposition. Sabri has also continued developing young players, while Italy's under-20 program has become one of the most improved in world rugby. Several impressive performances at junior level have shown that the next generation may have been Italy's strongest they've ever produced. Players like Angelo Compazzuno have brought a genuine excitement to Italian rugby. Despite standing just 1.77 metres tall and weighing around 80 kilograms, Compazzuno has become one of the most dangerous broken field runners in international rugby. His footwork, acceleration and vision make him a constant attacking threat. Alongside him, Palabo Garasibi has developed into a calm and intelligent playmaker capable of controlling games under pressure. Tommaso Maciolini has emerged as one of Europe's brightest young midfielders, while Lorenzo Canoni and Nicola Cononi continue strengthening the Italian forward pack. These players aren't simply participating anymore. They're beating quality opposition. Italy stunned Wales in Cardiff. They've defeated Australia for the very first time in their history in 2022. They've pushed France, Ireland and England much harder than anyone expected. Slowly but surely, the gap is beginning to close. Of course, closing the gap and actually beating the All Blacks are two very different things. New Zealand remain one of the toughest challenges in world sport. Historically, the All Blacks have maintained one of the highest winning percentages in international rugby, consistently sitting around the mid to high 70s across more than a century of test matches. No other major rugby nation has matched that level of sustained excellence for so long. That's exactly why Italy's search for a very first victory has become so fascinating. It's certainly not as unrealistic as it once looked. Italy's confidence is growing. Their player development continues improving. Their domestic pathways are producing higher quality internationals than ever before. Most importantly, young Italian players no longer step onto the field simply hoping to compete. They genuinely believe they belong at this level. That mindset alone has transformed the national team. The next time Italy face the All Blacks, they'll know exactly what history says. They'll know nobody wearing the Italian jersey has ever celebrated a victory over New Zealand. But they'll also know that records are made to be broken. Whether that day comes next year, 5 years from now, or even further into the future, one thing is guaranteed. When Italy finally beat the All Blacks, it won't just be another rugby result. It will be one of the biggest moments in Italian sporting history. Until then, this remains one of rugby's most remarkable records, a story of persistence, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of greatness against the greatest sports teams in the world. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Italy will ever beat the All Blacks, or will New Zealand's incredible dominance continue for another generation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want more rugby documentaries, player profiles, and incredible rugby stories, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace!